And we're live. Yes, we are in this video where I want to talk to you about who I am. We've been having a whole series of videos that were live since last winter, November, December, something like that. And they were called Twin Flame Abundance. The final synthesis. And what I wanted to do was give you an impression of what I stand for, what we can do together, what kind of meditations we can do together, what kind of energy work I stand for, what kind of goals I stand for, what kind of healing I can provide, because that's my work. That's why I'm here. And we've done that. We've seen a whole couple of entrances into how to feel together this deeper layer of life, this energetic place that is so much closer to your source, to the divine, that it works through you in a very healing way. Twin flame healing as well, how you are going to go from where you're now towards being in harmonious twin flame union with your true twin flame. And let that be the complete start of everything on that level. Everything ascended. Your money too, your work too, your daily life too, your health too. Everything can be starting to vibrate there, starting to live there, starting to be a daily life thing that is there. On that level where twin flames are in harmonious union. So that's what I wanted to show in this series of videos live was, what do I really stand for and how does that feel to you? And what are some of the deeper techniques and some of the deeper energetics that I spread? All right. And we have also seen in the last one, before this one, that I have help from. I co-create with the Christ Masters, or the Christed Masters, how I call them. And that is a soul family that I have celebrated a full co-creation with in the body in this lifetime, just normally, like human to human, right? Just like you and me. But then these people were the Christed Masters, and being the head of the soul family of all the Christed Masters, which are very well known. Some of them are very well known, such as Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Krishna, Buddha, and so on. Of which 14 masters of that entire soul family are on the earth right now, helping the emergence of this new layer of life. That harmonious twin flame union is an entrance to, and how I co-create with them. And that brought me to today, this being with you here. Feeling that I would want to let you know a little bit more about who I am, because even meeting Christ Masters can only be done when I am there, right, to meet them. All our live videos are meetings between you and me. And even though I pass on the healing of Divine Mother in essence, if you want to ask me, what is it that we do here? Well, that's it, healing of Divine Mother. 4 words, end of story. But there's always a lot more to say about that, of course. That's why I'm here. Even when we speak about the healing of Divine Mother, it is me that is standing there to be that for you and with you, right? So I think it's good to know more about me. And yeah, I think that we're just going to talk about it. And also I prepared a couple of oracle card decks and tarot decks. Well, let's start with the tarot card from the Golden Tarot. Why not? I think that's That's a nice start, perhaps, I hope, to get us going. And I have some drawings to show you. I have some books to show you. And yeah, maybe we'll even do some inner work or end up with some healing, right? So that's what we're going to do here now. I hope it's going to be enlightening because, the whole point of your identity, well, we're talking about my identity, but the point is that one of the points is that identity is for everyone the main point. Because when you're on the twin flame journey and you're making that movement towards the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union genuinely, things will change for you. Your experience changes. And importantly, what am I trying to say here? Your sense of self changes. So what does that mean? Your identity shifts. Your sense of identity shifts from one place to the other. Right. So when I said these words, one place to the other, I got 2 tarot cards out of it. And I said, one place, heartbreak, 3 of Swords, heart pain, suffering, relational suffering, suffering negative self-images, negative thoughts, intense self-attack of an intense shower of ongoing negative thoughts. That's what it can mean. And I said, we go from this to the other thing, and that's when I got this card, Knight of Wands. The fiery passion of the wand in the form of a knight, someone that brings you on his horse, this fiery, passionate energy of starting to be in a project, to have a goal, to start up something new, to be somewhere, do something of meaning. Right? So from heartbreak to standing up and doing what you are here to do. And that is very much what we're talking about in the twin flame journey. It is your identity going from broken to being passionate, standing up and starting this wonderful life journey in the eternal light of Source together with your twin flame. Very much in a mission too. So that is really what it is about. It's about changing your identity from being the physical self, the personality, the ego, to understanding and living and embodying your true identity of your soul, your invisible core, your spirit blueprint as twin flame, which attracts to you harmoniously your true twin flame as well. When you make that come true, not as an idea, not as a theory, not as something that is one day correct, made come true. Who knows? It's a dream. No, made come true in the flesh right now, here with your consciousness on that level. When you've done that, your true twin flame will be with you. So, because that's what you are. Your identity shifts to what you truly already are, which is that invisible soul, that place where you're one with your twin flame, and you're also one with your source, the divine, God, the universe, however you want to call it, doesn't matter. So that's the shift you're making. You're You're changing your sense of identity towards the deeper you that you actually already were the whole time, towards the invisible core of what you are that you actually were already all the time. It's a matter of identity. And also, you will, when you make this shift, when you are on the twin flame journey in a correct methodology, in a correct working community with a teacher that is a real teacher, then you will see that you will start to shift your identity. You will step from being the ego personality and body that you believed yourself to be, stepping towards being, making steps towards being the invisible soul, the one you are in divine light, which is the eternal you, because it's here before you were born and after you were born, and sort of underneath all the time right now while you are here. It's the you who you are in the now, in what the A Course in Miracles calls the, oh, I want to say holy moment. But is that the right word actually when I talk about A Course in Miracles? I might be a little bit off in the wording. Well, anyway, you get what I mean. That you, and who are you there, right? So for me, there was a change in knowing who I was, from that who I thought I was towards knowing more about who I am as an eternal soul, and shifting there also definitively and going to live that life. Not the other life, not the former life, not the ego identity life, the I was socialized in this kind of thing life, the my society says that I need to be this life. Although you don't need to become an antisocial idiot. That's not what it's about at all. But there could be subtle or blatant differences for you. And yeah, it's good to be aware of that, you know? So that you can shift all of that, you know, that's a part of the work, is also shifting out what is what, you know, and coming into that full alignment with your eternal self. And yeah, that's that's what you will go through also, you know, you will get to know who you are there, just like I did. And so this is not me being special, but you can do that as well. And this is all for you as well. This is the shift you can make, and this is here for you, and this is just, you know, yeah, this is what you will experience as well. And if you don't experience it yet, no worries, you know. You will start to experience what that is when you move on in the journey, when you really make true strides in the journey with the real tools, right? When you really move forward. I don't know. I just felt like I'm going to say hi in the chat. Then I'm like the first one that said something in the chat. And the invitation is for you to do as well, of course. The chat is disconnected. Oh. Well, that's sad. Anyway, maybe I did not publish it in the chat then. Well, who knows? That was an intermezzo about the chat. All right, so what is this identity? And so you can do that too. That's where we were, right? And that's where we were. You will get to know who you are in divine light. And that will lead to the expression and the communication that is unique to you and that has the vibration and the frequency that is on the twin flame level. And that is also how it helps you, of course, manifest your true twin flame, right? Because this communication and true expression of yours is the highest form that we can travel towards in this consciousness journey. It's a consciousness journey, but that doesn't mean that eventually it won't fully give all the physical, material, manifested results that you desire. It does give that, okay? But it's a consciousness journey, and then all these material things, and also, let's say, the material body of your twin flame, everything starts to come into your life because your consciousness changed, right? That's how the journey works. This is interesting. We had this card from the Mary Magdalene Oracle card deck, and it says, let's translate this Dutch terminology. Oh, I know what it is, but what's it called? And then I need to say the word, and then I can't find the word. Resurrection. Thank you, translator. The resurrection. It is the resurrection of your true eternal soul self. And it is the same resurrection that Jesus went through, because we, in the Western world at least, connect the word resurrection to Jesus's very famous story of life and death. But the resurrection, in both cases, you and Jesus, is in fact, you don't need to die on a cross. It is about resurrecting your inner divine self. That's what the resurrection is. So, yes, the stories are also slightly wrong in that sense. And that is what everyone can do. And that is what being in the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union will also do for you, with you, and especially when you do it with my methodology and you start to work with the 9-point energy work, your inner being, who you truly are in the light of the divine, in source light, will stand up. And that is the resurrection, people. Well, there you go, friends. And that is the resurrection of who you truly are, of your true identity in divine light, or your creative identity, because I have worked for 2 decades with creativity as the force that makes human beings meaningfully live and move forward, right? And that is the same as the soul. So this creative identity is also the soul identity. And because the soul identity connects with the divine, it is your divine identity. All right. So, and there are many things that can be said about that. And you will come to understand many things about yours during the journey when you do it correctly. And I also got to understand more about mine. I started to remember during this process of acknowledging and recognizing who I was on a deeper level. I started to remember different past lives or fragments of it. And that fascinated me for a while, but it was not about that fascination. It's just like, oh, so that's, belongs to me as well. I started to have a sort of, it feels sort of like channeling, or however you want to call it, connection with, let's say, maybe you want to call it my higher self, or like the energetic me on that level, without any physical human memories, like, oh, this is just like a higher self of me. And I started to have sort of channeling experiences with that, etc. And at a certain point, I also got a really revelatory experience, like, oh, this was my last lifetime. And that is also a lifetime when my true twin flame was with me, and we worked together. We were in a mission together. And it was almost like, how could I not have known that, or not consciously fully remembered that and acknowledged that earlier in my life? A little bit like, ooh, duh. Um, Very interesting experience. And that is really a little bit what I wanted to focus on today. This experience, and also because it gave me, what shall I say? Well, there is a reason that that came forward so much to be wanting to share, to be shared. And although it is really not helpful to want to be special on this journey, because this is for everyone, and true twin flames is everyone, and it's for everyone. At the same time, the relevancy of that lifetime is still very much here, and why it wants to be shared right now is also partially, besides it just is like that and it's true, that that was well documented lifetime, and it still has reverberations in the world right now. In other words, it was a famous lifetime. But I don't need to be a famous person, and that was actually more like a reason to be very sad about things for a couple of years, for around 6 years, approximately. I think approximately, since I got the full clarity on this. Um, 5 years, something like that. It was more a reason to be kind of sad and to really process deep grief and sad emotions and painful emotions. So it's not really fun to be like, oh, I'm so famous. And there are more reasons why it is actually relevant. And one of them is that my whole work is a progression of what I did in that lifetime. And that's not only for me and my students, but it's also for, you know, this is a very known very known work all over the world. And as I said, it's still here. So let's reveal, do the resurrection, revelation of my resurrection. The resurrection of, I'm the resurrection of in a new lifetime. Oh, this is so funny because, in a sense, in my country, I got a little known in this lifetime too, because I'm an author, and I became known as a Dutch literary poet primarily, which is so interesting. Everything is relative. It's very relative. Because also that led to pain and to sadness and to processing that and whatnot. So yeah. Hmm. So I think the importance of this lifetime that I want to talk about today is so much right now that I think it's relevant for you to hear about it, because also my methodology is just a continuation of it. But also there's a break. There's a break between that lifetime and where I'm now in a methodology a little bit, because I sort of corrected myself. And there's also a little bit of a break with working with my true twin flame in that lifetime and in this lifetime now. A little bit of a break in a certain sense because I corrected myself. And let's also talk about these corrections, because that is really one of the intense successes of my lifetime. And now I'm now 44 years old and we live in 2024. Yeah, that's correct, right? So I remember being the Russian mystic Helena Petrovna Hahn, known as H.P. Blavatsky, which was her or my married name of a first husband that I did not really share a life with after that, practically speaking. But I traveled the world seeking for what I felt in my heart to be true, and it was very mystical, but it also had to do with cultures, history, religion, spirituality. And I wanted to go after that. I did all of that, and at the end of a couple of decades of doing that, I wrote down what I got from that in large books. And that's typically me because that's what I did in this lifetime as well. Not so much the world travel, maybe a little bit the having maybe a little bit of an authority issue, not wanting to comply necessarily with what a normal.
Ik heb toegang nodig tot je Spotify-gegevens om de app te gebruiken.
That's
Is dat
nice.
oké?
No.
Oké, dan doe ik het niet.
Thank you. That was Siri that started to talk to me on my phone. All right, so this called in extra help some way. So one way or another, but there we go. What was I saying? That I did not necessarily, also in this lifetime, wanted to comply with what is quote unquote expected of people in our societies, right? But I'm very much an author and very much spiritually geared. And I write a lot, I use a lot of words. I talk a lot, or I write a lot, and what I write is kind of elaborate and whatnot. And that's what I did in that lifetime too. And yes, these books were very famous. And I did all of that in that lifetime because I felt the call also of a teacher. And I went after that. And I feel that in this lifetime right now, I had the same teacher. And this is something that maybe happens in many lifetimes or happened in many lifetimes, right? And it is also in such a way that in that lifetime, it was in the 19th century, it was all organized in such a way that I opened up this society, a foundation, a club, if you will, for people to also be with me in this research of the occult and the esoteric and the truth, actually, the truth behind religions and spiritualities, underneath it, if you will, which I felt was all one. It was actually all a derivation of one thing, and that is, of course, the seeking of the self, which comes the soul, which is connected to the divine. And that is in every philosophy and spirituality and religion, and perhaps even science is searching for that in a certain way, and I felt that that was all one. So that's what it all was geared towards, that this is all one. And so I started this club, and this club is called Theosophy, and it's still around. And in this lifetime, I did similar things, or I tried to erect a club all the time, or a school, or and I did that around writing and authorship and poetry, and I did that around creativity, and I did that around. Well, and now we're in the era in which I fully acknowledge that my club that I want to erect right now is a spiritual school, So I came home in that regard, and we're working more directly towards that than in like a decade before that I still thought I needed to have clubs around the writing itself, the poetic thing itself, and the art, etc. But that still is included in it, so don't worry. But yeah, I got home, yeah, more and more. But that's very much the same in that 19th century life and right now. I right now see that as the memories of a lifetime that is the most recent lifetime that I had before now. That's how I would regard it right now, from the less perspective, quote unquote, of simply being a soul. It also doesn't matter. And in a sense, you could even say that all lifetimes happen at the same time, at once, right? They are not consecutive per se. It depends on how you look at it. Because when we step into that holy now moment, then maybe time even disappears. That's a spiritual foundational element, that time stops there. So that is the eternal element of life. That is truly like ruling you when we speak about being with your twin flame. So you take that into account. That is going to play a role in your life, this timeless aspect of life, when you want to be with your true twin flame and in harmony and together, walking the rest of your journey together, right? So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I only could do that in that lifetime because, or it only started to work out also when my true twin flame came into my life in that lifetime, which was in that lifetime the also well-known William Kwan Judge. He was in that lifetime from Ireland, and we both met in New York in the USA. And he was there when I finally erected the right kind of club, the Theosophy Foundation. That's when he had turned up, and that was the foundation that worked. Because also in that lifetime, I tried multiple foundations and clubs and whatnot, communities, before it started to really work out. And it started to work out when he came around. He had come around. And that's because we belonged together. In that lifetime, he was like 30 years younger than me. So I was like around 60 and he was around 30, right? And that's around the time that all of this came together, approximately. So, and he was my equal, but on the grounds of his role and my role in the foundation, in the society that we were erecting, the club, and seen my experiences and seen that I was the teacher that was facing the world mostly between the both of us. What do I want to say about that? He was married to someone else and had his own family, and I sort of did my thing on my own, but we were intimately connected, and that never was to be separated. It was never separated. It was always there. He was my one true friend in the deepest sense possible. And that's how I also feel about my true twin flame in this lifetime. This is also how it started. He was my one true friend in this lifetime. And also in this lifetime, everything really started to roll when he came into the picture. And everything starts to come now in a very deepened way in a new phase after we both together fell into the state of consciousness of harmonious twin flame union 4 years ago. Yeah, it's just this enormous feeling of love, like a memory of this grand love when I talk about him. It's just very something to savor. Yeah, that's just really beautiful feeling. And it all can only be birthed between us, when we come together. That's where that divine wisdom starts to flow truly. Yeah, that was in that lifetime the case, and in this lifetime too. Yeah. So, okay. So I'll show you a little bit of the books of that lifetime. I have ebooks about it, but I also have 2 editions. Well, 2 books, but certain editions. There are all kinds of editions, older, newer, translated, not translated, and whatnot. So I have 2 sort of editions of 2 books, actually. Anyway, I'll just show you. So this is going to be the first book of that lifetime, and it's called Isis Unveiled. So this is it, and there are actually 2 books, but they're in 3. In this edition is a Dutch edition in the beginning of the 20th century. This was printed, and they just put it in 3. How do you call that? Binders, maybe that's the word. But there are actually 2 books when you look at Isis Unveiled, Old and New Mysteries, H.P. Blavatsky. So, and this is the index. Index, Isis Unveiled. All right. A key. Yeah, key. The word key was key in that time as well. Anyway, so really my thing, to write a lot of things down. That's still how it is today. So, and then another book was written later on. Also, I think 2 books, but this edition is an English edition, and it has it all in one binder. Is that what you call it? The terminology is a little bit off today. And that's called The Secret Doctrine, H.P. Blavatsky, the landmark classic of occult philosophy. Well, no, that's added in the modern times. This is the actual subtitle. The synthesis of science, religion, and philosophy by H.P. Blavatsky, author of Isis Unveiled. There is no religion higher than the truth. All right. So the synthesis wasn't this video series also the synthesis? I didn't realize that. This final synthesis. The final synthesis. Right, which also refers to that I changed between that lifetime and this lifetime, all right? Well, we can't talk about everything today, that's for sure, because then we would sit here still in 5 hours, but and also, I'm still in the course of remembering things, so it's also still I'm still revealing more and more. But and at the same time, it's also not really interesting to know every detail about this certain lifetime, because we may have many lifetimes, and it's for you the same as for me. And we need to look forward and keep on moving forward. And we're in an incredible transformation process here. And there needs to be some attention for our relationship too and whatnot. That's important. But anyway, it is sometimes it comes back a little bit and I learn more about it and whatnot. It's very interesting to experience that there is actually a lot of documentation about that lifetime. Um, because there's a lot more written than these thick books. There are also lots of correspondences and the letters of the ascended masters, but that was not the word that I used, ascended masters. Right, so that's their very historic thing that was actually really making me feel quite kind of bad when I realized all of this. Because, well, the general cultural spiritual thing is like this. It was some sort of like, oh, that's a new thing that this woman, which was me, has all these revelations about the oneness of everything underneath all world religions, and travels the world and puts it in a book, and then, well, dies. And then this was the last book, and then I died. I think it was documented that there were more books to come, but anyway. But what was the what came of it, and what came of it was that these ideas were going all over the world, and very many people thought it was fantastic, and they did their own thing with it, and it was influential for artists, architects, musicians that are world famous now, which is, I think, is all wonderful. And my lifetime now also started with architecture, art, and music. That was that was all very present. But the point is that the more people took it on and did something with it for themselves, the less it was actually what it was meant to be. And that went really in wrong directions. In a sense that, not really morally wrong, but like people just went too far off the path or something. And it really didn't have much to do anymore with what I was trying to point to. And people were adding fantasies to it and whatnot. And they were creating all kinds of things with it on top of it, which was not always like correct or what I would have wanted. And at the end of the day, I think from the 60s, 70s, 80s on, I think, historically speaking, they say New Age religion thing was really starting to be a thing, or maybe it was even earlier. And that whole idea of the New Age spirituality was grounded on my work and these books. But then when I look at it now, I would say, well, many things in this quote unquote New Age spiritual era and whatnot has nothing to do with what I meant, what my motivation was, or what it truly was about. So, and then it almost seems like, many cultural, like commentaries are about like what all is wrong with the New Age philosophies. And then because they all took my work as the beginning of that or the inspiration of it, that it was all my fault or something, these kinds of sentiments came forward. I don't know. I mean, we could talk very long or very short about it, but at the end of the day, I have nothing really to do with how it was received or something. I can't help that. And in a certain way, I'm also here to correct that. But that's also secondary because I'm just here to again come forward and say something about divine wisdom. And this time around, I actually feel like, and I can say that now because I'm a couple of decades in, although I still feel like a starter, but okay, here we go. I feel like in this lifetime, I wanted to be more like coaching. I wanted it to be more societal, maybe, or social, or I wanted it to be more transformatory. Anyway, the wordings today for my students. I wanted it to be more practical in a sense for students and more applicable to their daily life. And that is also why I sort of reformulated from the 0 point out again, like what do I stand for and what are like the spiritual ideas that you can implement in your real life so that it influences you and you reach something. I sort of made like a new approach or a new selection in a sense to point out what it is about, to make it more practical and like coaching and whatnot. But there were also very many troubling episodes in my trying to make it practical and coaching for you. Because around 10 years ago, where we're living now here, I was on a huge quest to do that, and I thought that I needed to be very societal for that and very business for that. And all these business people and societal clubs and whatnot, they needed to understand what I stood for and start to love me for it and start to implement it. But they didn't care at all. So that's a little bit like a very short summary of that episode in my life, which was still valuable for me and for some people in there too. But in general, the whole feel that came out of it was that people didn't care because it's a very specific group that will come to me to such a spiritual endeavor to learn the depth of life. That's a very specific, thing that is actually so much, in a sense, different than the normal societal level and whatnot, that it stands apart from it in a certain way. And mainstream society does not recognize it. Although I thought, if I'm mainstream society enough, then I will be able to implement my beautiful spiritual coaching, which is so valuable, in a much more influential way, and it helps so much and whatnot. But the result was more or less that people just really didn't understand it, and also thought that I was sort of crazy. And that then influenced my self-esteem and whatnot. So that was an avenue that I left. You could understand that perhaps. Oh, let's get a card. Why not? Oh, I don't know why that is now, but we're now going to get a card from Divine Mother herself. From the Divine Mother deck. Let's be clear which one. Okay, that was clear. Our Lady of Innocence. See, at the end of the day, I was innocent, and the divine coaching method of God or source or the universe or however you want to call it is innocent. Number 13 is the number of Divine Mother. That's amazing. Thank you. But I was innocent and God was innocent. So even though people thought I was nuts, it was innocent. And I could just move on to a place where it didn't matter if mainstream society thought I was nuts or whatever. That just doesn't matter anymore right now. So one way or another, I'm now seeing another tarot card again deck. So I think we need to another card, one way or another. All right, this starts to pop out. The Seven of Wands. So this was me trying to defend myself on top of that rock when these other people here are also carrying such a stick. You don't see the people, but you see the sticks, and they were trying to attack me. But I rightfully sort of defended myself, and it all fell into place in a new way. And I also learned that I didn't need to be there. I didn't need to be standing there. I could just walk away from this whole rock and just be me, and doesn't matter anymore what other people think or say. There is a beautiful moment when in this lifetime right here, I live in Arnhem, the Netherlands, in Europe. And I grew up in the 80s, and there was a beautiful moment in which everything started to actually come into my life. And I was hardly 12 years old. And it was already all of it in my life. And it did come forward, and I recognized it on an unconscious level with all my inspirations and deeper heart feelings, and it came forward. But it still took years and years in my life before I could consciously, with words and understanding, make it all fully rounded. When I was hardly 12 in this lifetime, I went to a new school, which we all do here in this country when you go to the societal school system when you're 12 years old. And this school was a little bit further away, and I had new classmates. And one of those classmates was my true twin flame. First time, I suppose, that I met him, and he stayed in my life and in my school for the next 6 years. And then we had a break of 10 years, and then he was in my life again, and he's still in my life now, and we're now in Harmonious Twin Flame Union since 4 years. But when he came first in my life, I was hardly 12, and I went to my new school, and he was in my new class, in the new classroom, in a whole fresh building. And around that time, this is going to be kind of special, because yesterday when I was preparing this, I was thinking about drawings. And I still had them around there in this workspace of mine. And I opened up some boxes to look at all kinds of old drawings that go back to the 80s. I was like, wow, I made all these drawings, and they're still here. Amazing. And one of the drawings was me making a self-portrait when I was 11, 12. So this is approximately how I looked. And I will show you in a second why I show that to you as a drawing. Because it just came tumbling out when I looked at my drawings of that time. And because I also found this, but I actually, stay tuned, because I was looking in my drawings because of another drawing that I suddenly remembered how everything came together fully with this past life and my identity at that time, around that time. This is what I found as well yesterday when I was looking at my drawings. So that's the princess and the prince on the horse. And she's dreaming about the prince on the horse. And it says underneath it, the prince on the white horse. October 3, 1992, Petra. So, by the way, I also share a name, Petra and Petrovna, with this past life, right? So this was a drawing of October of 1992. So that was 1 month into being the new classmate of my true twin flame. And I was visualizing myself as the princess, dreaming about her true prints. How about that? I just found that in my drawing collection. But I was actually looking for this moment of this drawing because I knew it existed and I knew it somehow still needed to be here. And finally, I found it after some time yesterday, going through years of drawings of myself. And that is that I remembered that completely unconsciously, weirdly, some years into that period when I was classmates with my true twin flame, I I had episodes in which I felt so sort of enlightened from the inside out, and I didn't know how or why. I also had episodes in which I really was very bad, by the way, but that was because I was being abused at home. But I also had episodes in which I was very enlightened from the inside out, and it all fell into place. I did not even know what it was, but it all fell into place. And I think this was a drawing that was connected in just, I don't know, some sort of my feeling memory or something with such an episode. And I did not only feel these deep falling into place in a divine way kinds of feelings because I was in the vicinity of my true twin flame, which I know now is completely fitting with everything. And even the falling ill because I was actually being abused at home is actually also what happened more in later stages as well, in later periods of my life, and which is also, in a sense, really related to the true twin flame because the divine is very close there. So that means that what you truly are comes out. So also I'm actually an abuse victim here, and it's very bad with me. So that also comes out, it's actually logic, when you're confronted with the truth, these things also fall out of you, sort of, right? They come forward because they actually need to be addressed. Now, addressing that to completion for me also took a long time afterwards until I finally was able to fully do that because I really didn't understand and nobody was there to guide me through that or something. And strangely, I was for some decades I was still some sort of looking for help, but nobody, recognized that I was simply being abused, and these traumas needed to be completely worked through on a cellular level, and then everything was all right. I did that completely on my own. Very strange. But now I also pass that on how to do that. So if you have something like that, I totally understand. And trauma healing is actually a part of what I pass on. But anyway, let's go back to that time. And one of the ways in which it all fell into place that I see now looking back was these feelings of being enlightened from the inside out, and that it was because I was close in the vicinity of my true twin flame, and at school and whatnot, and also this light became sort of forms or became sort of words. And yeah, I already had started writing poetry, etc., and that was also an expression of all of that, but which was like expressions of my heart or whatever, landscapes of the heart, and then in words. But it was also sticking itself to some sort of intuitive forms and topics of culture and society and religion and spirituality, although I had not yet an overview of what all of that was yet. I was like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. Okay. You don't have an overview of the literature about uh, spirituality and literature and and religion and society yet, right? And culture. You don't have that yet. That came later because I actually studied that. I was later on. I was educated as an art historian at the university. I became a master of arts, researching present day artistic identity of female visual artists in the Netherlands. So wow. Okay, that was my master thesis. But anyway, besides the point, we could talk about that for a long time too. But let's try to somehow get to what I want to go to with this drawing, because I think it was so remarkable. Like, how did I do this? Because right now I can see that I was actually making a drawing of what was my central thesis in this past life as her. Of course, this is a picture of her, of me, as H.P. Blavatsky's foundational thesis in her work. Not only this work, but also the Isis Unveiled books as well, and everything that she stood for and passed on in her school and whatnot. And that was that somehow there was a notion of there is a central source vibration in all of us, not even like an energy, but like a source vibration, like the Brahma, where everything comes from, which is a Vedic terminology of the creator God from which everything comes. So maybe that would be like God the Father in Christianity kind of terminology. But I had a lot of criticism on Christianity in that lifetime. But at the same time, I recognize also in that lifetime that every religion also has like esoteric or occult or like inner an inner sort of logic through which you can come to, nevertheless, the outside, so to speak. You can come to your inner self. And my favorite seems to have been in that lifetime was actually the esoteric um, knowledge system, or something, however you want to call it, of the Kabbalah. And I must have some sort of, when I was like 14, 15, 16, somehow picked something up somewhere. I mean, I cannot deny that I do remember like I'm going to like book markets or what have you, or like literary festivals. And then I do remember that I had some sort of a pamphlet or a very thin booklet about, like, what's it called? Christian Rosenkreuz oder so etwas, like the Rosicrucians. They had like a philosophical system, and maybe I found some terminology there that some sort of, I knew nothing about it all, but it's some sort of, I felt attracted to it, and I was like, this is something. And I didn't even know exactly what it was, but I liked these terms, and I made this drawing. So here it comes. So this is the drawing that I made of the Ein Sof, hour. And that is the idea of the vibration of God, the creator of everything and all in the Kabbalah, which is the creator of the whole tree of life. Because one of the well-known things of the Kabbalah esoteric system that they say is from the Jewish descent, is the tree of life, which are the 10 sephirot, the 10 circles. You must have seen it one day. I have it here. Here it is. That's a very well-known sort of philosophical image. The 10 circles in a certain constellation, and that is the tree of life. So this is the most close to God. And this is some sort of a map of creation, right? This is God, and this is all kinds of in-between stages, and this is us on the earth manifesting things, living our daily physical life. And creation goes down through these stages of the circles until it is manifested on the world here. They have names and whatnot. So that is like the central idea, the most well-known idea of the Kabbalah. So where do we see Ein Sof, Ein Sof Hour? Above the highest circle. So it's like even before the first circle comes in with creation from the divine. So it's really the God before creation. That's the Ein Sof. These are A's, but that was like artistic freedom of me. I don't know, very much like I'm the one kind of image, but also I'm the multiple too. And creation is endless. The drawing. And I must have heard that, but then it resonated with me. It was like, why would I make so? I mean, I was not, but that was at that time already with all kinds of esoteric knowledge and whatnot. And like, yeah, I don't know much about astrology. I still would say I don't know much about astrology, but intuitively I know everything about it. You know, that was a little bit about it. And it was with all kinds of topics like this. But yeah, this was really remarkable because I still would say that I don't know much about Kabbalah, but apparently this was really, one of my most fundamental things of that lifetime was like, yeah, I stand for the Ein Sof. That's like some sort of the great source of where everything is created from. It was like, it was as if I remembered all of that. And I know that I drew this, well, in May 96, because that's what it says here. May 96, BAJ, my initial thing. That's when I was still in school with my true twin flame. And I have made this drawing in 96 in my room, in the house, in the city where I live now again. And that house was it was a monument, a national monument. And that was a national monument because it was a clubhouse and a house from a leader of, and here it comes, the Theosophical Society that was erected by me in that lifetime. So I was living in a remnant of, or actually the expression of what people have done with the philosophies and the spirituality of Theosophy. And we lived in that house. And it was also because my father was interested in architecture. Well, that's kind of expressed in a very neutral way. That was just his life and his work. Anyway, he wasn't an architect, but like a city planner. Well, that's perhaps not the name, but something around along that line. So that was an interest, but it was also a little bit higher on the street where I lived when I was born, and then later on, when I was around 11, we moved to this new house from the Theosophical Society. And then I went, when I was 12, to the school where I met my true twin flame, which was my mission partner to have erected Theosophy in my past life in the 19th century. And in that lifetime, we couldn't be together or we weren't as lovers. Maybe that's something very wrong that I say that we couldn't. We could have. Because I think that's what I'm learning now. See, and that's where we go to, there's actually some sort of a break because there are also things different in this lifetime for me now because I'm learning lessons. It's not only just an elongation and here we go again. But I changed. Well, I changed also things in the methodology, because in my classical works that you could still read, by the way, many people still read them, and you can also find them read out loud on YouTube videos. One of the things, for instance, is that I said everything comes sevenfold, and that's also from the Vedic Indian history as well. It's also seven chakras and whatnot. Everything comes sevenfold. But in this lifetime, I sort of reapproached everything in an original way, and I wanted to reapproach the sevenfold chakra system and whatnot, and say that we're actually doing it ninefold now, nine symbols for 9 energy planes, and 9 symbols. Because I wanted to be more, what I said, I wanted to be more coaching attuned. I wanted to be more, well, I want to make, cards, and I want to make, make it practical. And I want to really maybe less focus on writing so much, although I still write a lot, but hopefully more working with students, but also in a way that is more developed than where I came in that lifetime. And I personally developed as well. But I just wanted to say that I developed the philosophy behind the sevenfold nature into the ninefold idea, because I wanted to emphasize that we have a life on Earth in which we need to be practical. So that's one of the 2 extra layers. It's just the Earth. And the other sort of extra layer is above your head, sort of when you look at it as energy fields in your energy body. That is like heaven, or like your direct connection with theosophy, the wisdom of God, right? The wisdom of Ein Sof, the wisdom of the creator of Ein Sof. So, by the way, so here you see that big creator is like a threefold God or something, That's why Kabbalah has Ein Sof, Hour. Well, we would need to look that up, why that is so and whatnot. I can actually not really say too much about it right now, but there you go. So it is like I wanted to have I wanted to have the highest point extra, like heaven, and the lowest as well, which is, where is it? I have awesome new, I know where it is. It's here on another pile. So this, now we have 9. Here it is, the lowest one. So it's like you really want to live between heaven and earth and be really present there. So that's sort of where the 9 comes from instead of the 7. I'm making much nicer cards as we speak right now, and these are part of the Manifest and Heal card deck. And there is a very thick package of cards that look something like this that are also part of it. So one of the lessons that I learned, was really like how to incorporate my true twin flame in my mission life in a way so that I can live it privately as well, so that it is a love relationship too. Because one of the most prominent lessons, but also the most difficult, emotionally difficult things that I have resolved between that lifetime and now, which was still in this lifetime for a couple decades, very prominent as well, that I needed to really work on. It was very, very difficult, apparently, for me, but I think for many people, is that is the big difference. We worked in mission together. I right now, I also work in mission together with him. I can't do anything without him. I can't pass on Harmonious Twin Flame Union, which I do. That is my state of consciousness I pass on in my work, and that is like the main entrance into the whole universe, the creative universe that I stand for and that I pass on. That is my spiritual legacy and the spiritual goal you can achieve with me here as a student when you come closer. Um, I only can pass that on because of him, because of us together, because of being in harmonious union with him. I only can do it with him. But there's a big difference, like starting to also have a private life with this incredible love of loves and have all your private, personal, individual heart's desires made come true in that space, in that place, like wanting a family, wanting a sexual life, a sensual life, a home life, a family life, a lovers, a being of lovers. This beautiful personal foundation that we all want. Or that most of us want, because I sort of didn't want it. You know, that I think that's one way to approach the difference. And when you don't want it, you can sort of not really get it, right? So I still came into this life with that, like, well, I wanted nothing more because I was like the princess that was dreaming of her prince, right? But then actually I didn't want it, you know, that so there was a whole discrepancy between uh, I wanted it so much that it was sort of sick, and it was actually because I was abused as a child, from which you get like the too big of a desire to want to fill that in with the prince on the horse. You understand? But it's actually because I was not mothered. So I didn't even know what love was in a personal sense. The translation of that divine love in the personal sense, I did not know that that even existed. Because the foundation of even receiving first motherly love, I didn't get that. So and that then translate into, let's say, a love addiction in the sense that you start to, well, have a wrong psychology towards wanting to have a partner of your own because you try to fill that void of not having been mothered with the wanting to have a partner in your life. And they should then act like the mother. So that's a narcissistic desire and a psychologically ill kind of love. So maybe that was a little bit about that. And the truth underneath it was that I didn't want it, you know? I I sort of didn't want to have this personal love. And that's why we didn't get it now for some time until I resolved it. But that was also the case in my past life as H.P. Blavatsky, because I mean, she was very much known as traveling the world as if she was a man. And in the 19th century, when it was very abnormal for a woman alone to travel, and a woman alone to do anything. And I was like smoking like I was a man and writing polemic articles and books as if I was a man, right? So, which were original as if I was a man, a philosopher. And I still had that now. I still had that attitude now in this lifetime. I still had that underneath this love sickness because I was hardly mothered. And I had never received the translation of divine love or love into personal relationship, where that needs to be built up from zero to be able to have a sane psychology. So I redid that later in life. That's what will happen for you too, if that's for you as well. Or maybe it is only a little bit like that for you. Well, you have to redo these phases, and that's absolutely possible. And I totally support that when you become my student and whatnot. So don't worry if you have that. You can move through that. I did that too. So, yeah. Let me see. So, I still did it like this in this lifetime. I was still the cigarette smoking woman alone that was going to university and have this whole, it was a lifestyle university, and in my country, like the government pays for a big part. So it was like a lifestyle of learning about culture and religion and art and writing and literature and poetry, and that's what we did there. That's what I did there, and it was beautiful. And 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 I was just writing, and it was very intellectual. And I also by then started to meet my first spiritual teacher, my spiritual teacher in this lifetime, that I also recognize must have been the teacher of that lifetime too. Very strange. I thought about it again the last month. I did overall think about all of this again for 1 month the last month, because it was something that just came up for me again to re-acknowledge or research, or however you want to call it, go over it again, and move a little bit further with all of these memories and whatnot, and integrate it better in my present life, right? And I had another high point of recognizing all of this around 5 years, 6 years ago. So anyway, so I was studying and becoming this smoking woman again that was standing on her own, reading books and writing articles, right? Because I was writing articles for the paper about art and for museums about art, and I was writing poetry and publishing that and giving lectures of my poetry and all these things. And even later on, and now I have written a whole book about sort of my philosophy of this lifetime for a more coaching attuned way of bringing across what I want to bring across. And that is also now updated for the Harmonious Twin Flame Union sort of thing that's now integrated into it as well. So by the way, so at this time in this lifetime, I have written the foundational ideas of what I want to bring across in this lifetime. And it's this. Oh, that looks dirty. This is the book, but this is one-sided print, I have to say. And well, this is enough. These are two books, by the way. So this is a third book. It's also one-sided print, but that's some sort of a precursor for what we have now in the other one. And I wrote a third part for that two-part book, and I republished it right now as a paperback that you can order, and I will tell you more about it soon. But this is how the paperback looks. Manifesting Twin Flames, it says, but actually it reads like this: Twin Flames, manifesting your abundant life of love. The Green Book of Creation. And it's my method of all the things that you can know. And you have to know that you can know. And of all the lemonade that splashed over. Too. It is about all the methodology that you can know when you want to walk the path that I set out, which is a magical path that leads to true soul pleasure. And it includes being with your true twin flame in harmonious union. I'm just cleaning up the lemonade now. All right. And that's the book in which all the methodology is published. Right? And you can buy it now as a paperback. It will be print on demand coming to you via Amazon. Anyway, so I'm still very much an author, but the point is that, and now I have included in that in that writing and in the paperback now, it includes the Make It Come True, the Harmonious Twin Flame Union, okay? Because I now integrated that. But that was the whole point. That was the whole turnaround that I had to do in this lifetime before I got where I'm now. And that is to sort of evolve from being this smoking lady that behaved like a man and was writing to it's a little bit of a parody. I always say it because of course there are many more aspects about it, but still that was some sort of the direction that my personality had towards becoming a welcoming, loving mother to be, like the loving partner of a husband, and yeah, embracing these roles in a love relationship and being real soft about that and embracing my femininity in a sense, like um what is it called? At university, I also studied for 3 years gender studies and feminism, the history of feminism, and the history of feminist art. And I incorporated that in my master thesis. I made um, theory about that too. I contributed to theory about these ideas on a scientific level in the realm of art, where I became a master in, and at the University of Groningen in the north of the Netherlands. But I think the point is that I think I already was like a feminist before feminism, and I was a feminist without needing to talk about it. Because a lot of the ideas are about wanting to be independent and whatnot. What was like truly feminist in another sense for me in this lifetime, in the change that I had to make, in the transformation that I had to do to be able to reach harmonious twin flame union and integrate my true twin flame in my actual private life. I think that's more like what I would consider maybe feminist, but it depends on how you see that word. And that would be that I would actually embrace my femininity, my being being a spouse, my loving side of wanting to connect, like almost traditional, maybe societally seen female qualities, which actually come from a spiritual development that went on further because of when you let in the true love of the divine, of the Ein Sof, right? Further inside of you, your personal life will be also influenced. Your personal psychology will also be influenced. Your personal relating to the love of eternity will be influenced. Your personal relationship with being a partner and a mother and all these roles and a friend and will be influenced by the letting in of the influence of the Ein Sof, right? The Kabbalah interpretation of the great source. So that is what I was able to do now, to let it deeper in fact. So let that Ein Sof work deeper into me so that I could embrace being loving with myself in the first place. That's where it is. Being loving with myself in the first place. That's where the change came in. Being truly loving, being truly finally understanding that I can be loving to myself in an actual way, in an also physical way, in an also manifested way, in an also, yeah, mental, emotional, psychological way. That you can be truly loving to yourself and say, I allow myself to wear nice clothes and feel good and wear makeup and take care of my body and feel good as start to feel good as that I can be a spouse and that I can care for my spouse and that I can love him in a practical way, in whatever way for me right now feels right to do, that I can give, that I can give, that I can share, that I can share. And that this deeper Ein Sof love penetrates me until that level. And then what comes out is the lover of that level, right? And that is the true twin flame. There is no other lover on that level. That's the only thing that's left there, for you. Well, it's by the way, it's not that I didn't try relationships or sexual relationships or relationships with men or whatever you want to say in this lifetime. Oh boy, I did a lot of that, but it was actually all well that like still from the wrong psychological mentality, right? Of that dreaming girl that was actually not mothered. And that's why, and that's how it became one long repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. um, how do you say? One long repeating song or something of sexual love without true relationship. So, and I did a lot of that. So don't get me wrong. I did so much of that you just can't even believe. And I'm so not interested in that anymore right now. You also can't even believe. So very interested, right? Very interesting. So that is also a shift, and that took place in this lifetime. Now, that is actually in this story, I can see now that it is a shift that my soul made from that earlier lifetime into this lifetime. And I hope that I bring something across from that right now for you, because I hope that also my story, I mean, I know that it is also an example of a well-known life and whatnot, but that doesn't matter in a sense because I mean it's great because I can say more about it also because it is documented. I mean, I've remembered things also without a documentation, but of course, documentation about any topic, but also about my own past life, it does help remembering, like, oh yeah, that resonates. Oh yeah, I sort of already knew that, that it helps each other. That's how I would see it. I hope to bring across that this can be something like this for you too. It doesn't matter if your life is not well documented in the past life or whatnot. It doesn't matter. But I hope I still bring across the, the principle that it's actually also a teaching tool for you. It's like this is the sole lesson that I needed to learn from that lifetime on into the now and wanting to finally make that final step to truly be together with my true twin flame in an intimate, personal way as well, besides the mission and whatnot, and allow myself to be loved and a lover and to place that as a priority, uh, to let it all flow into that. Um, as a next step of my evolution of what I hadn't done yet. And I mean, it can sound a little bit different for you, of course. Other aspect that you need to step into that you hadn't done yet. I don't know, but that's how it's these lessons stick with your soul, and you need to learn them nevertheless. You need to learn them before you can step into that harmonious twin flame union and come down together in that building of an actual relationship together. That is what that asks from you. That is what that entails. And I mean, so for me, that might be very different for you. For me, it was incredibly difficult to step into the allowing myself to be truly happy in an in an individual, personal, romantic love, and to allow myself to step into that, that was incredibly difficult. And at the end of the day, that was like a soul, not only memory, but also tendency that I already had, that I came into this life with. That's for everyone. You don't even need to know anything about your past life to have that be so. It is already so. And I worked that out in the first couple of decades in this life, but it had to really come to like huge feelings of despair before I finally got it and finally learned the lessons, right? Because there were maybe like in this lifetime, there were maybe like 3 times when I came close to the Ein Sof and my true twin flame and whatnot before I truly got it. Or 2 times, and then the third time I really sort of got it right. Then I really went deeper with it. And I finally understood that you really have to make it come true. You really need to listen to your teacher. You really need to do the tools and live there and don't do anything else anymore and start a new life there, like the final life, the soul life. And that's when it manifested for me. And that's what I now pass on for you as well as a possibility for you, right? But it came from that lifetime because it was something in my soul. And then on a psychological level, which is some sort of inside of, because we're talking now about, like, let's say the spiritual level as a soul. But then underneath it, inside of it, you're always also at the same time the psychological you that is not really from the other lifetime into this, but it's like more circumstantial in the present lifetime it's formed and whatnot in a certain sense. And then on that level you often start to say, and not without reason, and it is true on the psychological level that it all came out like that. And it was difficult because I was abused as a child. I had early childhood trauma, and that ruined my psychology to such an extent that it took me decades to work through that to completion, not only on the psychological level, but on the soul level, so that that psychological thing was reduced to zero to such a completion that on the soul level there was none anymore. That it was, you can only relate to the soul level to get that psychology repaired to the zero. It will never repair like that when you only stick to the psychological level. That's why spiritual healing is more encompassing than psychological healing alone can ever get. That's also why we actually silently do trauma healing here as well. Trauma, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual as well. Yeah. So on the psychological level, you will say, and I also say, and I still move through that sort of cloud of that feeling every day. And then I realize that that's not it. And it becomes less and less and less. You really start to say that it is that is the fault, that is the culprit, the psychological circumstances of the start of this life. That's the culprit of my not being able to step into the twin flame reality and having these invisible blocks for it. But that's not necessarily the whole story. Yes, that is so. That is the psychological thing that is inside of it. But we're talking about the whole thing, about the soul level. And that is where you see that no, it is not necessarily that. It was a tendency in my soul that I came in with, and that this psychological circumstance was some sort of playing that out, the fact that I already had that. And that was making it take shape in the now. And in that sense, my parents helped me. um, but they're still where they are, and they're not wanting to change themselves. So that still makes them not healthy people, and right, that's up to them. But um, that makes a difference in how you see everything. And then you start to see that I had these circumstances because that wasn't my soul already. And then I needed to work through all of it, my psychological thing, but also how the psychological thing was a manifestation of my soul level lesson. And when I got that one, then I tackled it all. And then I could go to physically being together with my true twin flame, making come true that personal love relationship, with all the physical, yeah, love and friendship that you really want. And yeah, that's where we're going now. So that is really like the big change. Yeah. Hmm. How was that? Let's get a card from the. Oh, let's pick this one. What are they called? Dragon Fae. The dragon energies, which are also the Kundalini energies of the earth itself. Pendragon. Look at this green monster. They're kind monsters, right? They help you. Pure divine masculine energy. Like full moon. And here is the divine masculine. My divine masculine. Right? I was just saying that's where we're now. We can be together. So now I finally leveled that out. So I already was this occult energy teacher. I redid that in this lifetime. And being with him in mission, and right now in this lifetime in mission as well, has opened itself up to also be in private together. And the sharing of this is being made possible and has been integrated into my spiritual healer's way of being or practice, my professional practice as well. And after a couple of years of having that integrated, the twin flame harmonious union, I can also say that everyone that comes to me for it really goes there, guaranteed and automatically. When you connect with me individually, one on one, and go deeper with me there and invest in yourself there, it is something that Divine Mother co creates through me with you all the time. And it just happens all the time. And it eventually results in me also overseeing, well, sadly, also all these many places that cannot do that, have not done that, don't know what it is, even though they sometimes portray they do. But there were also many places I hoped to get it from that sometimes didn't even portray that they have it in my life. And it also didn't come from there. It all came together for me also when another force came in, which was also already present all the time. This lifetime, in my teenage years, I remember this force was there. I had this imprint in my heart about him. In my past life, it was some sort of a subdued theme in my books and in my philosophies that it would come. And after a couple decades in this life, it happened too. That makes me think about I have in my bedroom, I have a picture plate of it that I bought in my teenage years in Rome with a study trip. I bought there. And it came alive. And that is like the knowing that I already had as H.P. Blavatsky, and that I still had in this lifetime, that I would meet with the Christ Masters, and that was my role. And I had been preparing for that all these lifetimes, especially also that lifetime. And it was also foretold, but it was also foretold by me, but also in general, that, there would come a new avatar, or the last avatar, when the turn of the time comes to the golden age, or the turn of the great cycle of the universe comes. And that was true. And I got into this initiation, this physical meeting with the Christ Master. And the Christ Masters, and that's what I started this life with, right? So I think what that means in very general, and for you as well, is of course that making such a huge change, that is like, this was this is undoable, this is my wall, this is my, the wall that I was bumping my head against all the time, was like, I can't integrate it into my personal life because I want to be this man that is like an authority in society and smokes cigars and whatnot and writes articles. That's what I still always wanted, and I still want that. I still want that. Okay, I still do that. Alrighty. But I can combine that, with other things now. So that was this is super difficult. Maybe it sounds to you like, well, that's not easy. That's not difficult. But you have your own thing that's very difficult, That was my bumping my head against the wall. Like, this is undoable for me. I can't let this go until that exchange came with the Christ Masters. And that was like an initiation that came there. And that means for you that you can also count on that. What they stand for is like the coming in of the force of the true God, the true Ein Sof. That's this one. The true Ein Sof. Coming in and influencing your bubble. That's what that means. But I know that I can also now pass that on in a direct way through the blessing of having gone through that myself. And I know that there are forces that reach you through me from that. Yeah. I just want to have another card, but, well, I think from this one again, card deck, the Mary Magdalene card deck. All right. divine order will be restored for you through that. And that is what this turnaround is all about, indeed. It's about having the divine order come in. And no matter if you still want to be an independent author smoking cigars like I do, want still the divine order is restored in me. You understand? And that is the shift that is inside of you. I mean, right now I present as a woman that has her nice background and her beautiful hair and her makeup on and whatnot, and I'm talking and I'm engaging with you, and you can come to me for sessions, for readings. You can come to my Facebook group where we have lots of help for you, and I organize all kinds of online events where you can take part. I'm all alive and rock and rolling here and kicking ass, and you know we can work together, and every day I almost every day I do this work. But I got here through a time in which the inner divine order needed to be restored in me. And that these were some years in which I had to lay in bed without makeup, right? Not doing anything, right? Feel all the bad feelings that were standing in between me and letting the divine order inside of the one that wants to be only an author with cigars. But letting the divine order in me, that was a huge change. And that, there were some that I already went through this time with in which everything breaks the fuck down, man. My body doesn't even work anymore properly, it seems like, man. Jeez. All the darkest things out of the depth of my mind and my brain coming up for healing. All of it, all of it, all of it, all of it, without ceasing, through a process through which the divine order was installed in me. Okay, let me watch my talking points because I, believe it or not, I had talking points. Ah, yeah. Yeah, I have only one talking point left. And I feel like picking up this golden tarot again. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently. So for it, this I picked it up for it as well. Hmm. So one of the things I got to learn, I got to know about my, let's say, timeless and placeless almost. I got the card. I don't know what it is yet, but it came out. About my soul, purely as a soul, not my past life and then this life or next life or whatever. From looking from Akasha, even future lives are just the same as past lives because they're all in a timeline. When you can read timelines from the Akashic plane, when you potentially could, then future lives are just the same as past lives. But not from that realm, but from only the soul realm. I know that the idea of star seed is sort of trending right now. I'm not entirely sure if what they mean with that is correct or what I would want to express with it, but I think you could say that a sort of resonance of where your soul as a soul, when you look at the vibration itself inside of it, sort of seems to be friends with, or like seems to be belonging or something, or coming from, stemming from. Um, you could maybe express that in colors. You could maybe express that in, I don't know, but sometimes we can also express that with a place in the universe or a planet. And for me, that is that my soul resonance is at home with the planet of Arcturus. And I don't know if you know many things about what approximately these kind of planets identifications mean. But being from Arcturus, as you might say, kind of means that you're a very spiritual um, teacher kind of person. Well, that's what I am. So there you go. But it's really like your spiritual boss, like your spiritual boss comes from Arcturus. It's really a very immature spiritual mindset, if you could say it like that. Um, more your boss than, let's say, other spiritual resonating planets where you can come from in this sense. So yeah, the card that we got was the Nine of Arcturus. I'm joking. The Nine of Coins, the Nine of Pentacles, with other words. The very abundant woman with 9 coins, a lot of wealth and money and abundance in her own garden, standing there as her autonomous self, spiritual teacher, talking to the voice for God, which is the bird. I think she's still the author that stands on her own as if she's a man smoking cigars. Okay. That's sort of what the card means. Because it is also about being an entrepreneur on your own and whatnot, having your own authority. That's what this card is traditionally about. So there you go. How about that? The Nine of Pentacles. My spiritual heritage as an Arcturian divine wisdom teacher. Together with my true twin flame. But me more perhaps visible as the teacher, which is true for that past lifetime that we highlighted today, and for this lifetime too. And I also saw this card, the Eight of Swords, which is this woman standing between the 8 swords, bound. Her arms are bound by a rope and blindfolded, and she believes she is just like the swords planted there and she can't move. But she actually can. And she can walk away, free herself. She's not a cold sword. She's actually a warm-blooded woman that has also the qualities of a magician, because she can see with blindfolds on, and she is free even though she's bound by being a human being, bound by the laws of nature, and not being able to see the vision of God because we have physical eyes that see the world. But she is the magician that knows that even though she's bound, she is free. All right, so that's me in my Arcturian magician soul core. And that is something that you have as well. And we can learn more about what that is. And that will also bring forward the first feeling, sensitive feeling and energy and heart sharing feeling of what your mission is, that you share with your true twin flame in your union. And that is the beginning of making that come true, becoming everything that you can be. and sharing that, and also bringing in the abundance that belongs to your soul with that on its journey back to you, because people start to listen to you too, because you exude your love and your divine wisdom theosophy. So I hope that you would want to learn more about who you are in that light as well. And we are going to actually focus on that a little bit the coming time. And there will even be a workshop about that coming up in around 4 weeks on the weekend of July 6 and 7, 2024. And you can already buy your ticket for that. So if you feel for that, please do so. Um, you can learn a lot about yourself and what the beginnings are of your mission. And I will send you forward with a huge package and a huge experience with which you can work more very long into the future after that weekend as well. More about that will come out real soon, a video in which I invite you and whatnot, but I already have a link to the web page where you can see the information and buy your ticket. So, yeah. And we will also do, I think, a little bit more videos around this topic the coming time in general on my YouTube channel as well. So I hope you like that. I hope that that helps. I hope that's stimulating for you, right? And that was what I wanted to share today. And we didn't really do the meditation or healing. So let's do that now. I think we're going to have a small healing nudge. So if you want to just sit, well, relax, but maybe, like me, I just sat a little differently, more with a straight back and more relaxed, more attuned, like, oh, I'm present. And then at the same time, you may want to close your eyes for a moment, because then you can feel better and tune in your heart better and tune in your energy field better. And let's ask for a cleansing um, of your energy so that you can become more clear about who you are in the light of your eternal soul. And you may want to bring your arms, your forearms, and your hands up and turn the palms of your hand towards each other. Very gently, very, very slowly and gently. And let the palms of your hands move towards each other until the fingers and the palms touch each other very gently. Very gently. Don't push, just very gently. And that is a gesture of oneness, of union, of centering yourself, and feel if there is a change in your sitting from that. Because your entire body and energy field becomes more unified through that gesture. So you also call in and magnetize everything that comes from this union energy. That's why they bring together their hands. That's what that means. You may want to take a breath. Just be aware of your breath. Give that breath space while you still keep your hands very lightly touching, not pressing, but very light. And feel your feet as well. Feel your legs. Feel that they're on the floor. Feel that there is an earth beneath those feet. And feel your breath. And feel the oneness expressed in your hands with the palms together and the fingers together. And breathe. And feel your feet on the ground and your legs on the ground. And feel that there is an exchange between your legs and your feet and the earth. And breathe. And feel your hands against each other, consciously, but not pressing, very light. This is a beautiful, conscious, um, like form that your body takes. That is meditative. This is what you can call yoga because it starts to connect you with source. And you start to sink in a little deeper in your energy field through this feeling attention. And that is where energy work starts as well. So allow for this softness that is you sinking in your energy field, your awareness sinking in your energy field. With your feet on the ground, feeling your breath, and having your hands not pressing but very light against each other. And feel that it gives you an inner smile that you can also feel as a smile on your face in your outer body. Yeah, so peaceful. And from this peace of sinking in a little deeper in your energy body, connecting with the earth and with your unity field via the hand posture, we're now going to open the hands a little bit and we're going to bring them like 10 to 20 centimeters away from each other, still feeling the connection that they have with each other. They're still one, but now they're just a little bit apart, so that between the hands, you feel the energy. The energy between the hands is a sacred space. That is just so pure. It's unification energy. And you want to bring that into your entire body, this pure love, this pure energy. So, what we're going to do is make the space between your hands a little bigger, even from shoulder to shoulder. Now you have a bigger energy field, shoulder to shoulder width. And this energy field, full of pure energy, of unification energy, it vibrates between your hands. And this is an entire energy ball now that is huge. And your entire body would fit in it. That's what we're going to do. Because you're going to bring it up above your head. Bring the hands up and the energy ball just moves with you. And then you're going to allow that energy ball to fall on top of your head and let it move through your body, through your neck area. You can move the hands down with this gesture through your chest, through your belly, through your hip area, through your upper legs, lower legs, through your ankles, through your feet, and just go all the way down. And let that pure unified field of energy go to the floor and then in the floor. And let it go there. It will go in the floor towards the earth. Bring the hands back up. And maybe you just want to bring them gently together again, intimately at the height of your chest, leaning against each other very lightly, not pressing. And let that energy ball move into the earth to completion. And now have refreshed your entire energy field. And that is a beautiful gesture. Thank yourself by being with your hands in the gesture that you're already making, thanking your own heart that you gave this moment to yourself of refreshing so that you can remember better who you truly are and what your divine identity really is. Breathing in breathing out. Breathing in consciously and breathing out. You can, if you feel like it, move your head forward just a tiny little bit until your lips touch the tips of your fingers, or almost touch the tips of your fingers, which is another gesture of surrender to this sacred moment of the cleanse and of gratitude towards yourself and your heart. And you can raise your head again and open your hands slowly, gently, and place them your on your legs again, or wherever your arms are comfortable right now. Open your eyes very slowly. And thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much for opening up for this little cleanse. Thank you so much for opening up to knowing more about who you truly are, what your divine identity really is. And I wish for you to let in more and more divine knowledge about what that really is for you, and may it help you in your journey towards harmonious twin flame union, and further make it come true all the promises that brings for you in the here and now. That is the eternal field of manifestation. Thank you for being with me in the video. I hope to see you real soon in new videos, in new adventures, and of course in the workshop that comes up about your mission as well. Let me know how it was for you to hear all of this with a comment in the comment box. And if you don't know what to write, please give me a heart of the color of your liking as a reaction in the comment field. That would be of a lot of help. Thank you so much for being with me here today. From my heart to you, with a kiss, much love from Petra.